Do you spray and pray with your marketing dollars? This week on the Blue Collar Proud Show. Hey, everybody in Proud Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the Blue Collar Proud Show, the show that's all about having and living the blue collar business dream. If you can dream it, you can build it. You're in the right place to make that happen. Taylor and I want to be a part of that building process. My name is Carter Harkins. With me here every single week across the desk is Taylor Hill. Hey, man.
How are you this week?
I am good. And, you know, we're talking with somebody who's quickly become one of my favorite people to talk to. He's articulate. He understands so many things. And one of the best parts is he's a doggone millennial, which I love anyone who can blow the covers off the stereotype that I'm so frustrated with. And I know you feel the same way.
I know. He's a lot of fun. He's like the Energizer Bunny when he comes in here.
No joke.
He's just
lots of ideas, lots of ways to grow your business. So we're going to be talking about that today. Let's just get into it. The topic for today is really about how you allocate your marketing dollars, where you put them, how you use them, and whether or not you're being effective with the use of those. So.
But, before you allocate dollars, you kind of have to have a few things in place. So
yeah, you do.
Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
So, in talking about getting into this conversation about having a budget and spending money and marketing your business, right back to the beginning, you've got to have several things. And this may, for those of you who have been in business for a while, I'm sure you haven't thought about this in years because it was given, back then. But for those of you who may be considering starting a business, or have just started one, we get this question a lot: is how much money should I spend on logo design and those kinds of things? You can spend as much money as you want on logo design. I kind of am of the opinion that there's enough need for blue collar services out there that people are not going to decide to pick your business or not pick your business based on how cool your logo is. Okay, there are far more important things that they're going to make that purchase decision or that decision based on. So don't spend a whole lot of money on your logo in the beginning. You need a good company name that's recognizable and distinct and different in your marketplace from other people who provide what you have. If there's an Acme Plumbing Company in your neighborhood, don't be XYZ Acme Plumbing Company or Acme 2 Plumbing Company. Okay, get a little creative and spend some time thinking about how to distinguish your business from that. And that doesn't cost anything.
Right.
That's you and some of your buddies and your wife sitting around, maybe your kids too. And because kids are great at naming, actually. Some of the best names I've heard my son came up with. He's 11, and he did it when he was 8. So
there you go.
So spend some time there. Think about that. Once you have at least a good name for your business and you've set up the actual business structure, then you really, in order to start having and thinking about spending money on your marketing, you just need a place to send them. And you're thinking, well, that's going to cost money. I need a website, blah, blah, blah. Well, a website is good, but there are plenty of people that first start out that haven't even built the website yet. Mm-hmm. They have a presence on like Google. They have a Google My Business page, so there's a place to capture reviews, and they have a phone number. And those two things can be enough for you in the very beginning to start generating dollars. And then once you've started generating dollars, you have some dollars to play with in marketing. And that's really the bulk of what we're going to talk about today.
Well, let's get in and hear what Tim's got to say because, the guy just brings it.
He does. Tim Reid, he's out in Portland, Oregon with Fireplace Distributors, I think. Gosh darn it.
You do this every time.
Every time. Poor Tim. That's all right. We let him on the show enough. If more than makes up for it.
There you go. So, Tim, if you're listening, send Carter an email. Remind him the name of your business.
It'll be in the show notes. I for whatever reason, I never can find it right when I need it. But let's tune in what Tim has to say. It's a great conversation. We'll come back afterwards and tag on to it.
Sounds great.
Tim Reid, welcome back again to the Blue Collar Proud Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So we've noticed several times that you've been here, there seems to be a recurring theme, which is intentionality.
Yes.
That seems to be something that really drives a lot of your philosophy about business. Today we're talking about marketing, being intentional about how you spend your marketing budget, your marketing dollars. Tell us a little bit about what you mean by that and what your ideas about that are.
Yeah, I mean, basically, when it comes to marketing, stuff is changing so fast and costs are getting so high. You have to have laser focus on what you do and make sure you're spending on purpose and tracking results to see if it yields a good return.
Oh, man. And, you're in an industry where you have a lot of retail, and I see that those industries track a little bit better than some of the service industries that we also talk to. So, give us some actual practical things about tracking your marketing dollars.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing, first of all, is just not to blindly spend. So especially if you're in a service truck and maybe don't have as much time to research this, a lot of people will just do a Yellow Pages ad or just do some radio spots because it seems like a good thing to do. But I think you need to be laser focused in tracking. So whether you have a storefront or you're in a truck, you need to ask every single customer how it was that they heard about you, and also classify what kind of customer they are, because that's going to give you information about what marketing is effective and what marketing is not.
Oh, that's good.
So tell us about the classification.
Well, so for me, for instance, in a sales front, if you sell higher end products, you might do work with a builder, you might do work with a retail customer, you might do work with a designer, and there's different customer classifications too for service industries. But knowing who your customer is critical, because if you find out that your average customer is a 50-year-old affluent woman, you're probably not going to market to her on the sports radio channel that you're just always used to doing.
Right.
Being intentional about a match between the place where I'm going to do my marketing and the audience I'm trying to reach, right? I want more of these kinds of people. Where do these people go that I can reach them with my marketing?
Totally. And then just even thinking about your own consumer behavior. I don't know how many people do TV ads. Maybe some of the bigger companies do. But if you think about TV, it's great. But the reality is people fast forward through commercials now, and their phone is in their hand when the commercials are on that they're forced to watch. So is TV a good investment? I mean, it's up to you to decide, but people's attention isn't there anymore.
Sure. Yeah. We're all about experimenting, right? I mean, in marketing, we talk about that all the time. You don't know whether your marketing is working or not until you experiment to test this against this and which one works better, and then do more of what works better.
Yep. And I think the key is setting a goal. So saying I'm going to invest X and I'm expecting a return of Y, and I'm going to give myself until Z to complete it. And that gives you leeway to experiment with stuff and see if it works. And if you're tracking it and you're off on your timeline, it's okay, because eventually if it works, you'll figure that out through your tracking methods. And maybe you say, hey, it was a good spend. It just took longer than we thought to see the customers coming in.
Yeah, and you also have to be careful when you're tracking. And this is what some people don't think about. So let's go back to TV. So you do a TV ad. On that television ad, there's a website. So and a phone number. So you track the phone number. That's great. A lot of people stop there. They don't realize that they also need to track that website, because right now, when people watch television, they are ordering from the commercials on TV by bukus. It's amazing. I mean, because everybody sits with a phone. So you have to do multiple tracking. You can't just track everything that you can. Yeah. And that's one of the things I see that people don't always do.
Yeah.
So when you're testing multiple things and experimenting to see what marketing is most effective, that's actually really wise. But if you're doing multiple things and not tracking anything, that's what we call the spray and pray method, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just throw it up against the wall, see what sticks, and make a half-educated sort of a gut decision about whether or not you think it might actually be working.
Yeah, I mean, I give the analogy that, if you want to spray and pray, you could get a bunch of $100 bills, put them in a pillowcase, throw them up in the air, and hopefully you get more back than were in the pillowcase to begin with. But that logic doesn't make much sense.
Yeah. Well, what happens is this: I'm busy, and so it's working. But the reality is, which one of those things is working? Because you could do and really get busier and grow your business if you could pinpoint the thing that really works and put more there.
Yeah. Now, that's a great springboard, because if you are that busy, then maybe you should cut back on your marketing and invest more in referrals, because referrals and reviews are low-hanging fruit that is by far the cheapest and most effective marketing. And if you're truly that busy, you should have a bunch of happy customers to give you referrals.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Absolutely. But, it's like reviews. If you don't ask for reviews and you don't ask for referrals, you're cutting half your leg off.
Yeah. Well, of course, being a marketing company, anytime someone comes to us as a new customer, the first thing we want to know is, how are you spending your marketing dollars now, and how is that working for you? And Taylor will tell you, it's the rare animal that can actually tell us exactly how they're spending their money and how it's working for them in terms of tracking. But that's one of the first conversations that we have almost every single time. So if you'd like a review of those things, then we can certainly talk to you and help you figure some of that out.
Yeah, and you guys have such a great system too with the Spark Reviewer, because the reality is companies are spending money. I mean, they could be spending tens of thousands in radio, and maybe it's effective, maybe it's not. They can spend a fraction of that to get your review system that's guaranteed to drive their business.
Yeah, and it's just a no-brainer. I mean, that's the thing. Everybody thinks that marketing has to cost a lot of money and has to be hard. It really doesn't. It just has to be strategic and intentional.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the Spark review system. Appreciate your review engine. Appreciate you mentioning that. There'll be a link to that in the show notes as well. Man, Tim Reid, every single time you're here, man, it's always good. Thanks for being on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Man, good stuff. And I want to get it right because I actually do know who he is and where he works and what his title is. Tim Reid is with Fireside Home Solutions, and he is the sales leader there. And something else I want you to know about him, he actually has a podcast too. He just decided to do this. And it's not even out yet, but very soon you're going to be able to find a podcast specifically for the hearth industry that is called It's Fire Time. And I think it's going to be great, mainly because Tim's the one doing it. It's just going to be packed full of good information. So check that out when it comes out.
And we're going to be on it, so that's always good
absolutely
too.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what Tim had to say. We talked about some of the concepts around marketing and the ideas that you have to, the ways of thinking about marketing that are really important, and they get really practical too. So let's dive into a little bit of that.
Well, I think there's two things that people need to really understand when it comes to marketing. One is you got to budget for it. Number two is you have to experiment a little bit. And I'm gonna expound on both these things. And actually I'm gonna throw in a third one.
Okay.
And the third thing is when you figure out what works, keep doing it. So, which is amazing how many people stop.
Yeah.
It's really almost comical at times.
Well, business owners are beset by the whole shiny,
that's
kind
what
of
I'm
mentality.
saying. They got something that's working and it's working and it's working. All of a sudden they go, yeah, I'm going to try something else.
Yeah.
What? I mean, why? Why are you doing that? So anyway, let's go back to the budget.
Yeah.
So these aren't my numbers. These are numbers from home service business owners who are very, very successful. And they will tell you that in the beginning, you need to have 10 to 12% of whatever you bring in for marketing. So if you're bringing in $100,000, you need to spend $10,000 to $12,000 to maintain and grow your business. Now, I've had people argue this fact with me and say, nope, it doesn't work that way. I've been in business for 30 years and I'm not spending that kind of money.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that. You've been in business for 30 years. But it takes a big shove in the beginning when you're just getting started.
Yeah, it's like getting a train going.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It just takes a lot of energy and a lot of power there. And in marketing, that's dollars. And you don't yet know what's going to work, okay? What works for your neighbor may not work for you. What works for the guy, in Chicago may not work for the guy in Houston. It's weird. But that's the way it goes. We've got a client that it seems like nothing works for him, and we keep trying. I mean, we're still trying stuff. But he's a wonderful guy, and he tracks everything, and we know if something works or not. Mm-hmm. And when it even kind of works, he sticks with it, which I'm really glad about.
Yeah.
But when you can start backing off your budget is when you grow into the company that you want to be in. You don't want to grow any further. A lot of people, will say, I want 10 trucks or 15 trucks, and I think that's all I want. So when you get there, then you can get on kind of a maintenance in your marketing. But as long as you're growing and as long as you're attempting to grow, you're going to have to put some money behind it.
Yeah. You said 10 to 12%, but I know that
actually it's 12 to 15%. Yeah, I did do that.
There are certain industries where we've seen that expectation needs to be even more, like in the 15 to 20% range. I know there's a lot of plumbers and HVAC guys in our audience that are going, man, I wish I could spend 10 to 12 or 12 to 15.
I was going to say, then you have to also consider competition.
Yes.
So you can get away with 10 to 12 if you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere by yourself. When you're in kind of an urban area and there's some competition going, you're probably looking at 12 to 15%. If you have a lot of competition and you're in a very high volume market, let me tell you, we've seen 20, 25% need to be there. So, it varies depending on that. But to think that you're going to, throw a magnet sign on your truck If you just want to do friends and family and those, referrals of those friends and family, you can start that way, but you're not going to be doing a $500,000 business, very quick.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. So, which is the other thing. How quick or how slow do you want to grow it? That's the other thing. And no one other person or other business owner or marketing agency can answer those questions for you.
Right.
I mean, you have to answer
we
them
can
for
help.
yourself.
Like when we see somebody that's spending 15, 20, 25%, the first thing we start asking is, wow, that seems like a lot. Let's make sure you're not wasting your money on strategies that don't
and that's
work.
the intentional.
And the way you know whether it's working or not is your second point, which is all about experimenting, right?
Experimenting.
So talk about that.
People think experimenting is you just throw a bunch of stuff on the wall and see what sticks.
Run
And
it up the flagpole, see if anybody
salutes it. That all those kind of things. And experimenting is, you have to think about when you were back in school doing the biology experiments. How you had things that kept you, certain parameters that you had to stay in with that because you were measuring and tweaking and figuring things out and trying to
changing one thing at a time
and
seeing how that impacts the results,
yeah.
noting and logging and getting data.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of people go, I don't want to do that. The problem in marketing is if you don't want to do that, then every time you don't do that, that's money out the door.
Yeah.
So marketing is one of those areas that if you're not careful, for every dollar you spend, you can spend 5 more.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that.
Well, and I know there's a lot of mavericks listening that are like, it's the last thing I want to do is be tracking at that level, like being a scientist. And that's fine. There's others that get excited about that.
Sure.
Just be reasonable in what you are tracking and be consistent in making changes so that when you make a change, you'll have better evidence to support that this change created this additional result,
right, or
this additional failure in our marketing, and you can then tweak. What happens is people get 5 things at once, right? And they don't know which one of those 5 things caused the growth or caused the failure.
Exactly. And the thing is, if you're going to do 5 things at once, then you have to have what I call a little bit more sophisticated tracking model to be able to follow those 5 things at once. And we can help people with that. And I'm not going to go in that. I don't have time.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying there are ways to do that. But if you're just starting out, which is what I'm talking about, the guy that's small and wanting to grow, the very first thing you got to do is set aside money to do it.
Yes.
Because if you're not setting... It's one of those deals. This is my pet peeve. If you really want to do it bad enough, you'll do it. You'll figure out a way. So I'm telling you, if you really want to grow your business, you got to set aside anywhere from 12 to 15% of your dollars aside to grow your business. And then you have to decide, what are you going to do next?
Yeah.
How are you going? Where's that money going to go?
Right.
How are you going to allocate the money? Most people do this. They go, I need leads. How do I get leads? Well, let's see. I've heard Home Advisor. I'll call them. And then, this other person called me, and I'll do that. And okay, I need a website. Yeah, but I don't want to do a website. I'll just do a landing page. I can do that for this.
AdWords.
Yeah, I can do AdWords. I can do, and then pretty soon, they call me, and I'm like, so what are you doing? And they're like, well, I've got this 10-page website, and then I've got this other thing over here that's got a website that came with the website, and then I got the yellow pages, and I've got their thing going, and I'm like, well, you probably have a website with them. Really, you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have a website. Now you got
Whenever
3
your website
websites.
has a website,
it's just
you're already in trouble.
you don't need baby websites. You just need one. So. Yeah, and Google will tell you just want one. I mean, there's reasons for this. So, but it's more than that. It's every Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes through your door and says, oh, I can do this. And so you try it, and then you try it, and then you try it, and then it doesn't work. Or you've done something.
Or you don't know if it works.
Well, here's the other thing. You've done something forever, okay? Valpak's a really good example. I talked to a guy 2 or 3 weeks ago, and this is his experience. He would send out a Valpak, and after he sent out a Valpak, he would get 20 or 30 people. So the Valpak prices has gone up over the years. He sends the same amount out to the same zip codes and everything, but now he's getting 1 or 2. So I said, how many years have you been doing that? And he's like, well, you mean over time? And I said, no, that you've only gotten 1 or 2. And he said, this is the 4th year. I'm like, then why are you doing that?
Right.
If you've already proven you only get 1 or 2 and you're now done it the 4th year, and how much money you spending? And I almost fell off my chair when he told me how much it was. I'm like, your return on investment is negative.
Yeah. Sometimes the fishing hole dries up.
Yeah. And you got to move on because marketing is changing all the time. Where people are looking, where they are, it's always changing. And that's one of the things that Tim said that I really, really appreciated is you've got to be on your toes. You either, if you're doing it on your own, which is fine, you've got to read, you got to figure it out, and you better know who to follow because there's a lot of people out there preaching stuff that's just crap.
Yep.
Probably maybe shouldn't have said it that way, but it's crap. So you got to know who to follow. And it's the same with us. We have people that we pay attention to, but there are a lot of stuff we do not pay attention to because they don't know what they're talking about. So just got to be careful and stay on your toes.
Yeah. Now, there was a third point, wasn't there?
Oh, when you find out what works, keep doing it until it doesn't work anymore.
That's pretty self-explanatory.
That's kind of the Valpak deal.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. But here's what I want. Here's the thing, and I think you said it best. There are those of us that, oh, that looks cool. I'll go do that.
Yeah.
And then you take the money that's working, and then you go over there, and then it doesn't work, and then you're ain't getting business this time.
Which is why with the maverick business leaders that we know, the entrepreneurs who are always looking for the angle, the thing, the magic bullet, it's like, look, take a certain percentage, the majority percentage of your marketing spend and put it in the things that you know work.
Absolutely.
And then take that other little 2 or 3%, 5%, whatever you can afford to put to it and use that to play with your play strategies. It's like playing the stock market.
Exactly.
Put your money where you know it'll give you a return, most of it, so that you've safeguarded your investment, and then play the parts that, on the margins and see what you can get.
Absolutely.
But there's also you can try strategies that harm the strategies that are working, which is why having a marketing expert, somebody who knows, especially because everything leads online to your website, and your website strategy is, I'm not going to say it's a fragile or delicate thing, but it's something that you can trip up accidentally without even knowing how you did it. And because there's so many businesses out there innovating new strategies and new things, those new things can sometimes impact the old things. So that's why I just wanted to say at the end of this broadcast or this podcast to say, just make sure that you get good, solid advice from somebody that you trust who has already shown you good results and you feel like you have a good working relationship with as a trusted advisor and service provider. Ask them their opinions about these new things. They'll tell you. They've been exposed to them. If they're good, they've already heard about these things probably before you have. And they're maybe testing some things and doing some stuff, and they'll give you some good advice. And maybe, put the reins, pull back the reins a little where you need it, but maybe encourage you where there's an opportunity you've never considered.
And be very cautious with anybody that walks in your front door that says, I can get you X amount of leads, or I can get you on the top of Google, or I can get you 500 billion reviews, or I can get you this, or I can get you that. Just
run.
Yeah.
They're a waste of time.
Yeah, and waste of money. Yeah. And a lot of times they will also hurt you as well.
Oh, man. Yeah, we'll never do that. But if you are interested in talking to us, you can always reach us out and just go to sparkmarketer.com. Check us out there. All right. I don't have any feedback from anyone this week, which makes me feel lonely and
I'll give you feedback.
And depressed. And I would love if listeners would leave us some feedback. So you can always do that in iTunes. You can do it on Amazon.com, where our book is sold. And just a reminder about our book, Blue Collar Proud: 10 Principles for Building a Kick-Ass Business You Love, available on Amazon.com, both paperback and Kindle version. We'd love your feedback if you've read it. You can leave that there on Amazon. If you have feedback about the podcast, you can leave us a review in iTunes. That's where we would like for you to leave it. And, just basic feedback, you can always do that. Hang out with us over in the Blue Collar Proud Nation Facebook group. Just do a search for Blue Collar Proud Nation. You'll find the group. Ask to join. We'll let you right in, and then you'll be able to participate there, ask questions, hang out with us and some other really cool business owners. All right. Also, you can find out all about all the other places where you can connect with us by simply going to bcpshow.com/connect. That is going to do it for this episode of the Blue Collar Proud Show. As always, Taylor and I want to thank you so much for being out there every week and listening. We also want to thank the people that make this show happen for us every single week. Aaron Blay is our technical director, Jessica Wynn, our show coordinator, and Jonathan Sanders, our community manager. Until next time, remember, it takes the same energy to build a business you hate as it does to build one that you're so doggone proud of. So why not build it the Blue Collar Proud way? Hey, we'll see you right here next time on the Blue Collar Proud Show.
The Blue Collar Proud Show is a production of the Blue Collar Proud Network.